Okay, so we are excited. I am excited to welcome T. Williams to the Nourish Your Crown community. I met T virtually at a digital workshop earlier this year, and I saw that she was an expert in autoimmune protocol and autoimmune disease. And just over the coming last few months, I was like, I think she could be a great guest for us, for our community. And y'all, she said yes. So now we have an expert, and I'll just say this too. It is an exciting and it's a blessing to be able to have a woman of color that's an expert in this field in the space of sort of functional medicine and nutrition. And so we don't take it lightly that she's here. And so we wanted to again make sure that we bring in experts from our community to help us learn about how to nourish our crowns from the inside out. And so T. Williams is an expert in the autoimmune protocol. And let me tell you a little bit more about her, and then we'll get started right into our discussion. So, after being diagnosed with Crohn's disease at an early age, T. Williams had many flare ups and eventually surgery. After her last flare up in her mid 30s, she decided to be the master of her own health destiny. She learned and implemented the autoimmune protocol and restored her health with diet and lifestyle changes. After changing her diet, she was able to come off medication, and surgeries are a thing of the past. It's her goal to educate individuals diagnosed with an autoimmune disease on how they can decrease their symptoms, calm the immune system, heal digestion, balance hormones, minimize pain and inflammation, and hopefully put their disease in remission. So she is just the person we need to talk to today. So welcome, T. We are excited to have you, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us today.
Thank you so much. That was a really great intro. That's like literally the gist of my story. I'm sure people probably would like to know a little bit of details. So I will go ahead and share with you some details. So, growing up, like every red blooded American kid, we ate the standard diet in our family. Okay. So if it was in a bag, a box, a jar, or a can, it was food for us. My mom wasn't very much of a cook. And so, but one thing she was good at, and that was getting us designer junk food. So much
Mm,
to the point, like growing up, my brother and I, our thing was like cereal. So, like Captain Crunch, Sugar Smacks, Honeycombs, Tricks, Kicks, Fruit Loops, Fruity Pebbles, Lucky Charms, all that stuff. Like, it was so much to the point that, like, when we would go to other kids' houses, if they just had like a white box with some red letters or black letters, we'd be like, oh my goodness, these people must be poor,
oh,
be down and out, because we had like the best of the best. My mom never got like any off brand cereals,
mhm,
but when I turned 11 years old, I started to get like stomach aches, and it'd be like coupled sometimes with fevers. And then there was just like this vicious cycle of like diarrhea, constipation. And eventually I started vomiting by no choice of
mm,
my own. And so my mom and dad, they didn't have health insurance. They were in a restaurant business. So they worked long hours, and my mom would take me to different doctors, and they would just pay out of pocket. And so in going and seeing all these different doctors, I was misdiagnosed with anything from like anorexia to
mm,
mental and emotional issues. One doctor was so bold to say, oh, she's just faking her illness, she just wants attention, so she's okay.
mhm,
And I knew that that was not the truth. I remember praying to God that one night and saying, God, please, I do not want to die. Please, let them find out what's wrong with me. Because I could just literally feel like death was going to be the next step. So I remember saying that prayer to God. And like clockwork, not in our own time, but shortly after, I'm 14 and I'm 5'10". So I generally was always the tallest kid in class, but so being 5'10" and being like 80 pounds, about 14, not good, not a good look at all. And so my parents got concerned, definitely, as they should. And one fateful day, this health insurance salesman comes into my parents' restaurant, and he stresses the importance of having health insurance, that if your daughter does not have this insurance, she will not get the proper care that she needs. So my parents were convinced. They got the health insurance, and they started taking me back to the doctors. And one doctor had enough foresight to recommend me to see a specialist, but he wanted me to go that same day. So I went that same day to go to see a gastroenterologist on his referral. And when I walked into his office, I got up on the table and he started pressing on my abdomen, and he could clearly feel the inflammation. Now, he didn't tell me that, but I remember, and I remember it was sore to the touch as well. So after he, diagnosed me, did his examination, he diagnosed me with Crohn's disease. And immediately he had me rushed in an ambulance. That's how serious it was. Rushed in an ambulance that evening to Children's Hospital in Detroit, Michigan. And I remember the sirens going. They were like putting all kinds of tubes and IVs in me. And I was there for like 30 days to be fed intravenously and on a liquid diet. So I found out later, because no one would tell you at that point, that if I had not gone to the hospital that day, that I would have died due to organ failure. I was deeply, malnourished and dehydrated. I was definitely in dire straits.
Wow. And so talk to us a little bit of how you sort of went from that phase of your life to now you are literally teaching other women and other people, everybody, how to live with using the autoimmune protocol. I do also, just so the viewers know, we are going to actually talk about a whole bunch of things. So we're going to talk about the autoimmune disease, the protocol, and we're also going to learn a little bit about the connection to hair loss. So just everybody buckle up. Also want to make sure we have our notes. I have my notes. So I'm going to be taking notes and just tell the viewers again, everybody, make sure you get your pen and paper out because you're going to get a lot of information today about this. So can you talk to us, Tia, about, okay, so you were hospitalized, literally saved your life. And what's happened in the last several years that you've gone from there to now you're living in remission and living this beautifully healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, well, after I around that time I was 14. So then we go 2 years later, I'm back in hospital again. This time it's my graduating year, and then I have to have surgery. So after I had surgery in high school, I had a 17-year remission. So when I got sick around about 30 something, I'm sitting there in the hospital because this time I'm 30 something, I'm single, and I want to be married. And I just knew that, like, okay, I got to get well if I want to be married, if I want to be, on the market and stuff. So I was like, what happened? So after I graduated high school, I started modeling, worked for a local television channel, and was traveling around doing conventions, working for as a product specialist for Toyota. And then my parents asked me to come work in their restaurant. And so I work in their restaurant, and then my health starts to deteriorate. And while I was sitting in the hospital, I said, I'm eating just like I did when I was living with my parents. And then that's what clicked, because that was the highlight of the evening. We work 12 hours, 6 days a week. You go off, we get Domino's pizza, we get some ribs, some chicken, all these foods that are not conducive to health, but make you feel good, and they taste really good too. And so then that's what I realized was that, okay, this is the issue. It's got to be the diet, because when I was modeling, I was never starving myself, but I was eating a lot of vegetables, little to no sugar. And then I would have lean protein, meats, and things like that. So it was very simple, very basic. And at that time, I did eat grains too. But when I started going and working with my parents, I was eating things that I would not have eaten if I was still working as a model. And so that's where I started to make the connections there. And I'm sorry, I hope I answered your question, because sometimes I'll just start talking.
It's okay. Just go. Do you.
Okay.
Yes, good. I do want to know, tell us about the last question before we really sort of dive into autoimmune diseases, how did you become certified, or what was your training, and why did you go? Well, I think we know why you went in that direction, but um, talk to us a little bit about the training and what you have to go through, and even to become certified in this field.
Yeah, well, so I knew that I learned a lot about health anyway because I had to do a lot of research to figure out how to get myself back up to par. So when I, heard a commercial for the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is IIN, and that literally pushes out millions or thousands or whatever, like millions of health coaches, like that school's so world renowned. Then I was like, I should do that. Like I could do that. And so I went to that school, got a certification. It's a year program. And then in addition to that, Dr. Sarah Valentine, along with Mickey Trescott and Angie Alt, these are all like the gurus of the autoimmune protocol. They also had a certification for what they coined to be the autoimmune protocol.
Right.
And they all suffered like from their own autoimmune disease and stuff like that. So it just only seemed right that like I use this protocol to get myself well. And it's not something that most people are aware of. Like if you go walking in your community, oh, have you heard about the autoimmune protocol?
Right.
No.
Right.
So I just knew that it was like very important to kind of spread awareness. And so this is like my mission in life, where I'm like, you can be healed. Like to listen to people and, oh, I'm so sick, I don't feel well. I'm like, I don't want to hear it, because you can actually solve that problem. I mean, believe you me, I was there with the doctors where it's just like, well, honey, there's nothing we can do. It's just the luck of the draw. You're just unlucky. It just happens. And I believe that. And then I had to start making a different decision. I mean, working with my parents, they needed my help. So surgery was not an option, and then the immunosuppressant drugs, I was like researching that. I was like, oh Lord, I can't do that. So I had to get well. I didn't have time to be sick, really.
Right. So, let's shift a little bit and talk a little bit about this. What actually is autoimmune disease? Like obviously there are. Well, you tell us, because I'm not the expert. So, what is autoimmune disease, and are there symptoms? Are there different? Does it play out in different ways? I think one of the reason why we've been having this conversation is that we know inflammation is connected to it, and many of us who are dealing with hair loss, inflammation is a big deal for many types of alopecia, and we always talk about we need to reduce excess inflammation. So, can you talk to us a little bit about autoimmune disease and inflammation?
Yeah. So yes, they are a little bit different, and those intricacies, they're very small. But when it comes to autoimmune disease is going to be where your immune system is overactive. So the name of my practice is the gist of health. So I'm just going to give you the gist of it. So your immune system is overactive. So imagine your body is like a secure facility, and you have a security team that's to protect you from intruders. And in the terms of your body, it would be like your body is supposed to protect you from invading microorganisms. But instead of your security team going and attacking the intruder, well, they start fighting and attacking and sniping each other. And so that's what an autoimmune disease is. Inflammation, we need to have inflammation. The good kind is going to be like if you cut your finger, the blood's going to rush there, and it's going to start saying, okay, we need to repair this tissue. All hands on deck, and that sort of thing. So we have to have inflammation on a daily basis. The thing is that when the inflammation starts to get out of hand, when something just is, whether you're having chronic stress and it's just constantly going on and on, then you're going to start to see the type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndromes and things like that start to play out, because it's a low grade chronic inflammation that's going on consistently, versus autoimmune disease is just like haywire, because the immune system is just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to attack. You just ate an apple. I'm going to kill it, I'm going to kill the enzymes or whatever it is. It's just going crazy off of anything. So that's like the gist of it. When it comes to the fact that like, I like to go with Hippocrates because it's super simple. Hippocrates was a 4th century Greek physician, and he's deemed the father of medicine for the simple fact that, like, that's where doctors, they take the Hippocratic oath when they start to practice. So one of the quotes that he's well known for is that all diseases begin in the gut. So I kind of feel that, like, I don't care what you got. You probably got the most important thing, something wrong with your gut, and you need to change your diet. So I'm like primarily about the first line of defense is going to be your diet. And so that's the gist of it. Now there's way deeper intricacies, but as a health coach, I do not treat, diagnose, or prescribe medication. I simply guide clients to their own aha moments, because I feel like intuitively, if we just calm the noise, we know exactly what it is that we need to do. But a lot of times, some of us just need that little extra push, that little coaching, someone to walk alongside of us and say, hey, it's going to be okay. Have you tried this? Or what about that? Well, let's figure out how we can get you to work in more water in your schedule, and stuff like that. And so that's what I do. I guide them to implement healthy, sustainable changes for like their lifestyle, as well as empowering a client with information so they can make the best health choices possible.
That's good. All that. I love all that. I love all that because I also agree. Like I think when I was even doing my research for my issues, realizing that some of the things that were causing inflammation for me was food triggers, right? So the dairy things that I knew I shouldn't have been eating because
Mm-hmm.
I knew it messed up. My first symptom was in my gut.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I completely hear you on that. Are there any tests that people can take or things that they should, or blood work or things that they should even be, if they go to a health coach or if they go to their physician, are there certain things that they should be asking when
Well, the thing is that so I have a series of tests that I took the liberty, like I've taken some of these tests, well, maybe like one or two of them, but there are tests like if you go to a functional medicine doctor. Now, if you are dealing with a westernized doctor, you can see if they will run these tests for you. The thing is that with westernized medicine, they will only go with like how you would say a functional range of like where your liver, your thyroid should be, instead of trying to get you to be optimal. So they like measure you against the most mediocre people instead of people that are optimal. That's why the functional medicine doctor is a doctor that's trying to get to the root cause. Majority of health coaches are always going to try to get to the cause of your issue, the root cause of your issue. One test that's really good that I've taken this test myself is a comprehensive blood analysis test. So this test includes a complete blood count. It's going to analyze the liver, the kidney, lipid, and blood cell abnormalities. And it also looks at vitamin D levels, which most people are typically like very low in usually. Then there's also the Dutch complete hormone panel, which this is good, especially if you're having adrenal problems, low energy. I know for me, I once suffered from chronic fatigue, so that will help with trying to figure out what hormones you got going on, like what imbalance that is. And then there's the GI map analysis. That's going to be a comprehensive stool test that will show you the presence of microorganisms like yeast and parasites and bacteria. Then there's a very, very advanced food and chemical sensitivity. That's like super expensive. And I think the cheapest way is to do the autoimmune protocol. Because you just eliminate everything that you know that we all know is a trigger, like eggs, dairy, wheat, and what else is there? Gluten, sugar. You get rid of like 8 things, nightshade vegetables, then you can pinpoint immediately when you eat that food or you start eating it again that, oh, I have an issue with this food versus, throwing $600 out the door. But if you are, got it like that, then that is a great tool to use to find out chemical sensitivities and all these types of things. And then the last test is going to be the comprehensive organic acid test. So that's going to kind of show you how your detoxification pathways are, if they're up to par. Most of us that have like issues, our detoxification pathways aren't doing very well. Also neurotransmitter breakdown and the intestinal microbial activity as well. So those are like 5 really good tests that you could ask your functional medicine doctor for, which he'll probably just go ahead and prescribe you 1 or 2 of those in the first place to see where you are. And I haven't seen a westernized doctor in a good while, so
Okay. Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
I have a functional medicine doctor, so I
Yeah.
try to solve it as naturally as I possibly can.
Right. Right. I'm. It's interesting when you talked about how the Western traditional Western medicine will go for normal levels, because one of the things when I was going through my earlier self-diagnosis, then diagnosed by a dermatologist, vitamin D, there's a connection between vitamin D and hair loss, and my vitamin D levels were super, super, super low. And
Mhm.
that's after I had just started taking vitamin D, a high dosage amount. But even on that traditional Western medicine blood test,
Mhm.
it said that it was like in the 40s range, right? Which says it wasn't quite normal. I think they say on that range 50 is normal. But then I listened to a functional medicine physician and he says his goal is 80.
Mhm.
So the
Mhm.
Western, the regular blood test says 50 is good. But then you have a functional medicine physician who says, no, 80 is what I'm shooting for.
Yeah,
So you can see the disconnect between
absolutely.
what you said between normal and optimal level. So it's really important for us to really advocate for ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I always, try to have my clients like research it and read it for yourself. I kind of equate health with like being a believer. Like I go to church, I listen to what people say, and then I go and I look it up for myself to make sure it's true. And I mean, even like when you look at the Bible and you see that they were like, oh, Jesus is the Son of God. And the Bereans were like, well, hold on a minute. Let me go read about that. And they did
Yeah.
that. And that's what we have to do nowadays because there is a lot of information. And unfortunately, a lot of myths and things that are not true that we just pick up by osmosis and believe it and take it in as truth.
Right.
It's really sad because that's not the way that it really is. And people that are trying to do the work that I'm doing, and like one doctor, his name is Dr. Robert Lustig, like his
Mhm.
book, Metabolical, he literally tells you the main problem of what all diseases are coming from. And he's a
Mhm.
neuroendocrinologist, and he
Mhm.
was dealing with children that have childhood obesity and diabetes because he was like, why are these little 6-month-old babies overweight and having
Mhm.
fatty livers? So he started doing his research and he started to see what the problems were. And he did a lot of digging and research, and apparently he's one of maybe most hated men by food
Mhm.
manufacturers.
Well, of course.
So,
So let's talk a little bit about sort of the connection between hair loss and inflammation, and what are your thoughts in that whole space?
so the thing is that wherever your weak point is, that's what's going to be attacked. So hair wasn't really my thing, but
Mhm.
my gut was,
Mhm.
and so my gut got attacked. There's some people that have the Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Their thyroid got attacked because that's where the weakness was in the body. And it's very interesting, like how inflammation works, because like they say, there is a genetic component to it. So
Mhm.
if your mom suffered with, the polycystic ovarian
Mhm.
syndrome, or she had some of those issues, and it just came on down to you, this is a weakness that's been, part of our makeup in the body. And so everyone is affected differently, and everyone's symptoms are going to come out differently. So obviously, we can't prescribe the same method for everyone. That's why, as a health coach, you got to look at that person and say, okay, so you work nights. Okay, so where can we find out a way for you to get some exercise? So that's where it comes into like me being a part of someone's team, working with their doctor and whoever else they're working with, and saying, well, how can we get this person to be back optimal? So honestly, the symptoms, whether it's hair loss, rashes, boils, or whatever you got going on, it's all in the same pot of soup, which is going to be getting to the root cause, which is going to be your gut. And you probably got leaky gut
Mhm.
permeability. And that is your main problem right there. Once you can heal the gut, you can get every other organ back into order.
Right. And I think that's so important because there's so many, and I have nothing against oils and creams and things of that like that. But I think a lot of times when people are suffering and dealing with the symptom of, we don't always remember to really try to get to the root cause. And I
Yeah.
think that's one thing that I've learned on this journey is this is a symptom. Well,
Mhm.
this is doing pretty good right now, but you know, when it's
Mhm.
when it's not, when things are not working properly, it's a symptom. And
Mhm.
so the question is, what's the cause?
Mhm.
And if we already know that everything starts in the gut, then let's start there. And I think I like that you said, like, it's really unique to every individual. And that's why I think it is important, especially that I try to do on my channel. These are things that are working for me, but what's working for me might not work for the next person.
Yeah.
But what we do know is important is that we figure out and we get to the root cause. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I appreciate that. So let's talk about the actual autoimmune protocol.
Yes. So the autoimmune protocol is an advanced elimination diet. So its sole purpose is to lower inflammation because of the fact that you are taking out so many foods that have been known to be major allergens or trigger foods for a lot of people. Some people have problems with eggs. We're going to take that out. Dairy, we're going to remove that. Nightshade vegetables like potatoes and jalapenos and green and red bell peppers and yellow ones too. We're going to remove that. We're also going to there's so many of them. We're going to take out sugar. Okay, we just going to buy sugar. I'm sorry. We'll see you later. And then gluten as well. We're going to remove the gluten because, it's just not the same stuff that grandma and grandpa ate. So we're just
Mm-hmm,
gonna take that out
mm-hmm,
too. And I'm probably missing a few other things, but if anyone were to like look at my program, they would be like, "Oh, okay, I know what I can't eat, what
mm-hmm.
to avoid, and then also foods that." But the thing is that we want to focus on nutrient dense foods. So don't look at what you can't have. Look at the fact that we are having nutrient dense foods and that we are trying to have foods that every time you put something in your mouth, you want to say, would this nourish my cells? Would
Right.
this make my cells happy and make them better? Or would this make them want to fight each other? You know?
That's good. That's good. That's good. I like that. I like
Yes,
that. Make
yes.
it. I like. I try to do that, but I like the idea of like, are they going to fight? Are they going to love each other? So
Yes. We want to
that's
have
good.
peace.
That's good. So do you eliminate? What's that process? Do you eliminate everything at one time? Is it you group them in small, or how do
So
you?
when it comes to the elimination, yeah, we're knocking everything out at one time. Now, I do realize that can be very difficult for some people. So we would have to start, some people need to just start with the paleo diet. So we at least knock out the grains and the sugar and the dairy, because like the paleo diet is pretty much focusing on Paleolithic foods before agriculture became a thing and people started farming. So anything that you can literally like get out of the ground, which I think rice does come out of the ground, but tubers mostly, like your sweet potatoes and a plantain, you can pull that off a tree, and then something that has a mother is what we want to focus on. And then not to mention a lot of greens, a lot of herbs and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, I might have forgotten your question. I'm not sure if I answered it.
Yeah, there was sort of, do we eliminate, or do you, for that protocol, do you eliminate everything at once
Mhm.
or whatever? So what you mentioned paleo. Do you have any thoughts or direction for people who might be vegan or that are vegetarian forward? Any thoughts?
Yeah, that one is a little bit difficult because of the fact that like I got my certification under the autoimmune protocol, which is coined by Dr. Sarah Ballantyne. So she is not an advocate for veganism for the simple
Okay.
fact that she honestly believes that in order to get that nourishment very quickly, we have to get it from an animal.
Mhm.
So getting it from like she's very big on organ meats. In a lot of indigenous countries, the people always ate the whole entire
Mhm.
animal. And
Mhm.
so there was nothing left. Here we focus more on muscle meats instead of organ meats. But she's like, you have liver once a week, you can literally build the iron reserves in your body very naturally. But some of
Mhm.
us do take supplements, which she's not opposed to that. But she definitely is like to have a good quality animal and get his nutrients, you take it right into yourself immediately. And so when it comes to veganism, like I'm like, if you're eating whole foods, because there's a lot of vegans and vegetarians are eating pretty much the standard American diet, because they're eating the processed, soy products
Okay.
and all those like things.
Got you. Got you.
And not
So,
everybody, so but
right,
so.
right, 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 right. And so, what do you think about? I'm looking at my questions here. I'll make sure I get
Mhm.
all the right questions in. You talked about sugar,
Mhm.
and so basically get rid of it.
Yeah.
Do you? Are there any? Do you? What about like things like allulose or the natural sugars that are? Um, I forget how the terminology that they use, but allulose is one that won't spike glucose. Or
So
do you think just cut it all out for you?
yeah, so pretty much like on the autoimmune protocol, we're cutting out we're pretty much cutting out like all refined sugar. Now you can have like the maple syrup and the honey, like those are a bit more natural
Oh,
if
okay.
you're going to have a baked good, because like I've been following Dr. Lustig, and he is a person, he'll say he doesn't have anything against dessert, but you can't have dessert for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And that's the whole thing, is that we've gotten way out of hand,
Yeah.
where the 1700s, people had like 4 pounds of sugar a year. Now it's the 21st century. We still have people. So apparently you can live and reproduce without having literally 150 to 200 pounds of sugar per individual in the 21st century. So we're having way too much
Wow.
sugar. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's well, I like the idea of that that right there. But in terms of you can have natural sugars.
Hmm.
So what are some this question came from our community from Trinika. So I wanted to make sure we shared it. So what are some budget friendly ways that we can maybe get started? So maybe someone they're going to reach out to you in the next couple of weeks, but they want to get started now. What are
Yeah.
a couple of things that people can do that are budget friendly in terms of starting or beginning that process of the autoimmune protocol?
Yeah, well, I think definitely like one of the cheapest ways to get a good vegetable, a good quality vegetable, is frozen vegetables. Because frozen vegetables are generally very inexpensive. You can get the broccoli, the cauliflower, and even yellow squash. Okay, now granted, like organic is great if you can get that. If you can
Mhm.
afford the organic, wonderful. And I think some things you might just even want to get organic, but look out for your farmers market. Like, I believe in supporting people that are doing things the right way. So if you can, get some carrots and some celery, or from the farmer that's not putting like these horrible pesticides on them, like the glyphosate with the Roundup, that's just going to be important, because we're really trying to get this inflammation down, and we're trying to find the root cause of what could be giving you a problem. Because some people could be honestly having a problem from the chemicals that they put on the food.
Right.
So, but you do the best that you can do with the resources that you have. Frozen vegetables are generally cheaper. Obviously, try to get as much, things that you can on sale. When it comes to meat, if you can't get the, non-hormone, non-antibiotic meat, then just at least start with the meat and the vegetables.
Right.
And so that way you're going to heal, better than if you were saying, oh, well, I can't afford to be AIP. So the Ritz crackers and the cereal, here I come.
Right.
Just start with getting like the meat, the vegetables, and doing the very best that you can with the resources that you have. But food is expensive. Like, I'm amazed at going to the grocery store
Mhm.
and just coming out with less and less groceries, but spending still a large amount of money. So if you are able to, now I live in the country, so I have a community where we went in on a cow. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Mhm.
there's a guy who has cows, and that's what he does. He's like, you give me money to feed this cow, I'll have it ready for you January 25th. So we all chipped in. and this cow is, walking around somewhere right now. And
Wow.
it's like, if you can do that thing where you can share expenses. I've met people that who know that they spend so much, and they actually have a little, like, two families will combine together and share grocery prices, or share groceries, like that, like go to Sam's Club, get a whole bunch of, like, meat and things like that together. And then, everyone kind of cooks up the meat
Yeah.
meals and share it. So
Yeah, we do that sometimes with my mom because she lives right around the corner. So we'll
yeah, yeah,
with my Costco membership. But yeah, you got to do what you can to support one another.
yeah.
So let's shift a little bit and talk about stress, right? And stress
Mhm.
and the role of stress in autoimmune disease. And what are your thoughts about that? And are there things that we can do to um, reduce, excess, sort of the impact of stress?
Yeah, typically, when you are constantly going and going and going, like you're a workaholic or you have to work, and especially like single moms, God bless them, when it's just you and you got kids you got to care for, especially like women in general, we're always caring for somebody. So the thing is that, like, you have to take care of yourself. You have to find that time where you can get some downtime to yourself so you can rejuvenate, revitalize, and regenerate. So however you choose to do that, there has to be something that will relax you. And number one for me, I'm always going to go with, like, Jesus. Like, I am a person of faith, and I'm like to have that vertical relationship and be like, Jesus, I need some help, or this person's getting on my nerves, please help me to be nice to them. And
Yes,
stuff like
yes,
that. It's like,
yes.
that is such a great outlet, is to be able to pray. So I'm like, for prayer, number one, um what I feel like helps me start the day really well is to be able to read my word, meditate on a scripture, carry a
Mhm,
scripture in my heart, and and I'm actually working on trying to build more scriptures in my heart and memory, hide it in your heart and
mhm,
stuff like that. So that's going to be like number one. I feel is, have some sort of spiritual connection, because I do understand that Jesus, like, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to have Jesus. Okay,
mhm,
well, you have that choice right now. So, but
mhm.
that being said, there's certain laws of the universe that if you are a person of faith and you believe in something, like, apparently you can get healed. So, and so it happens that way. It's the law of the universe. But I'm definitely like for prayer. And then also, making sure that your magnesium levels are in order as well, because that helps. Magnesium has like over 300 different functions in the body, and calming yourself and helping you, especially when you take it at nighttime, will help give you a very restful sleep. And so that would be like number two. And then, yeah, you have to do something as an outlet, whether you like to go get your nails done, or,
Mhm.
get a facial or massage, something that will allow you to have a period of time where you're to yourself and you can, recuperate, and then you can go out and try to help others. And so that's
Yes,
what I
yes.
got for that.
I'm on board for all of those. Actually, those are all. I agree with all of those, and especially the number one, and then the magnesium. I take it every single night before bed, and it
Yes.
completely, yes, love that. So I'm going to look at my. Make sure I get the right right question. So what's the so if you were we're start to wrap it up. So what is the next? We're always talk about sort of just do the next thing. You said this earlier, but I'm also a supporter of it, a believer in it. We don't have to do all the things. Just do the next thing, right?
Hmm.
The next right thing for you. So are there anything? Is there anything that you would say? What do you recommend is sort of the best next step for someone who might have autoimmune disease, or obviously if they're listening to this or watching this, there's something going on. So, from your as a health coach, how do you encourage people to sort of just take that next step?
Yeah, the next step that you could do would be to have a whole food. Stop
Mhm.
eating processed food. Stop eating the junk. It is literal poison. I have a presentation coming up, and I'm like been doing so much research on like how high fructose corn syrup has literally changed the bodies of us Americans. Like, I got a picture of a beach in the 1970s, and not one overweight body is on this beach. And I know during the 1970s, nobody was like, hey man, I got to go to the gym to get my beach body ready for the summer. They just didn't do that. Like gyms didn't become a thing until the 80s. Then
Right.
all of a sudden they started popping up. But everybody there, even like, women that look like they're over 50, they got on their bathing suit, and everybody is just looking like, healthy and fit and stuff. And so it was actually a meme. My husband gave it to me, and it said, not one overweight person on this beach. And then also how the food industry has destroyed us. So
Mm.
we've been like a literal experiment of these frankenfoods that the food
Mhm.
industry has literally designed. And so I'm like, eat the way that God designed us,
Right.
in
Right.
Genesis 9:3, when Noah got off the boat, and he's like, okay, finally land. And God's like, okay, everything that moves upon this earth and that I give to you as food, just like I've
Mhm.
given you green plant. So I know what was on Noah's plate. When we look at Daniel, I think it's the first chapter, and it opens up with like the food at the king's table. And Daniel's,
Mhm.
no way, we cannot do this. Can we please just have some vegetables and some water for 10
Right.
days? And then,
Right.
the results were in. It was like these people were clearer. They didn't have any brain. Their skin was clear. They appeared to be healthier, is what the Bible says. So I'm like, let's eat the way that God intended us to eat. And He did not intend for us to eat these frankenfoods. So it's like, if they're not bringing life, then they're bringing death. And I think that
Mhm.
things that bring death are from Satan. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
said it.
Mhm. Right. 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 So we are about life. We are about life.
Yeah.
Um, so I do have this is sort of similar to our conversation, but maybe not, but it is. So if somebody's looking for a health coach, right, what are the top three things that you think they should be looking for? So a lot of people will certainly now are going to go to your website, the Gist of Health, we'll link it below. But if they're looking for a health coach, maybe they're want someone that's in their region, or maybe what are the things that you think, as being a professional health coach, what are the things that we should be looking for when we're looking to say, hey, I think I might want to get a health coach?
Yeah, I think when you are looking for a health coach, like, first of all, I think it's important to mention there are people that are part of multi level marketing companies that will refer to themselves as a health coach, but they haven't had the hours or have been from an accredited establishment. Now,
Hmm.
there are some health coaches that do multi level marketing, but you just want to make sure that they come from an accredited institute when you are getting one. And so that is going to be like number one, checking like the credentials and the education. And it's not like a health coach has to have like, thousands of hours of, like, we're not doctors. Okay, we're like, detectives. We're going to like figure out, okay, maybe this might be the issue, check with your doctor on this. We're a concierge. You don't have to go look up the information and research it, because we probably already know it. And then we're
Hmm.
like cheerleaders as well. So when you get that little victory of like, I got 8 glasses of water today, well, good for you, and so that's what a health coach does. But when you're looking for a health coach, I think number one, you're going to want to make sure that your personalities match. Because if your health coach is extremely enthusiastic and really happy and you're not, then that probably won't be a good match.
Right.
If you're a little bit more chill and they're just like, okay, here's what we're going to do today, okay, that's probably not going to be a good match. But you want to make
Right.
sure your personalities match, because of the fact that like you're going to be with this person for like a good 3 to 12 months or however long you're going to do it. And then number two is going to be like, what values do y'all share? The same values,
Hmm.
um we want to have motivation, wisdom, faithfulness. Like, does this person keep their appointments? Do they keep their word?
Right.
And things
Right.
like that. So that's going to be important. And then also, I think with spirituality, like, I'm not one to push a lot of new age ideas, manifesting and all that sort of thing. I'm gonna be like, well, maybe you could take it to Jesus.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
so that's how I feel about that. So some things that I just kind of stay away from,
Okay.
and and so, yeah, you might want to make sure that this person lines up with that, like whatever your spirituality happens to be. And then I think maybe lastly, will probably be coaching style. Some people want a drill sergeant, and some people need a little bit more like motherly approach, or just kind of being able to recognize like how this person would be coaching you, and if you would be game for that. And I think last, I'm just adding one more.
Go.
Truthful and honest. You don't want someone to tell you, you know what, you're just so awesome and so wonderful, because obviously you're not. That's why you're getting some help. So it's important to cover that realization. Something's wrong with you.
Right. I think that's a, especially now, we have to tell ourselves the truth. I think we can tell ourselves the truth in love. And love, I remember someone saying, love, sometimes the most grace-filled answer is no. Like, we're not going to keep doing this. We're not going to keep making these decisions. And so I think we can get the truth, and we can get it in a way that we can receive, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's important too. So what do you have? You mentioned a seminar that you have coming up. Do you want to promote that out, share that out, and where can we find you? Where can we follow you, or where can we see more of you?
Well, okay, so I'm doing a health seminar. I'm calling it T's Health Class, and it's local to where I live. So I know people are out there everywhere. So unless you're like, in Baxter, Tennessee, feel free to stop by Baxter Nutrition. But for the most part, I am, you can reach out to me, or if you have any questions or concerns or whatever, at williams.net. Now, presently, I am not taking clients. I'm working on a book right now, and so I got upcoming speaking engagements. So I'm kind of like, my plate is full right now. So so at this time, I'm like, okay, I got a lot that's going on, so I can't really take on any more clients. I'm unable to. So, however, I am offering like my program, which is my signature autoimmune protocol program, as a do-it-yourself. And it has like the recipe guides, it has shopping lists, as well as a symptom tracker, so you can keep track of your symptoms. And then also, let's see, a few other bonuses like paleo. If you're like, I can't do this AIP right now, let me just start with paleo, like that sort of thing. So, and then you get 14 support emails. And so it's pretty much just like for somebody that's on a budget and they want to do the program and they want to take their time doing it and things like that, because coaching is not included, because I just don't have that time. But normally it's $650, but I'm offering it to your viewers for a short period of time at $199.
Wow.
So it's 70% discount, and that way you can go into my members area on my site, and you have access to these materials where just videos that you could listen to in your car will walk you through the transition, maintenance, and reintroduction stage. And of course, I'm here, so I don't mind, shooting an email if someone's like, well, what about this? And I'll be like, okay, here's that, or whatever. But to be like on the phone with people like for an hour, I just can't do it like right now. But that's what I'm offering to your viewers. The code for that is Crown 20. So Crown 20. Yep, Crown 20 is the code. So everything will say like $650, but when you go to T store, so you go to twilliams.net, click on T store, and then it says specifically for Nourish Your Crown viewers only, click in the special code. And you can learn more about it before you decide to buy. So you just click on that. But yeah. And
then, that's awesome. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm excited because I knew we were talking. I didn't know it was going to be available. So I'm excited for that. So we'll link all of this in the description box. So everybody we'll link to your website, T. We'll link to everything. We'll have the instructions there. So just remember, she said that this is for a limited time only. So if you're watching this video, this is September 2022. If you're watching this video now, you better get to her website and get this package to help you with your next step.
Yes. And then also I wanted to mention Viome is like a great self at home test to take. So I also have that on my website as well. So if you, I myself, I just recently ordered the full body intelligence test, which I plan on doing a YouTube video about
Good.
that, but showing my results and everything. But that I offer a coupon code of $50 off if you get the full body intelligence, and then if you get any kit that you're interested in, I offer $20 off. So you just click the link on my site and then look at what they have to offer, what you might be interested in. But I think Viome is a really great company because it goes off of, you do a little stool sample, put in a little vial, send it off, tells you what foods are good to eat, what foods you should avoid, and then what foods are superfood for you. Because when I first took the test a couple of years back, spinach is a great food. I mean, it's a wonderful food. It's a healthy food, but apparently when I got my test back, it was like spinach is a no-go for you. And I felt a lot better for taking it out of my diet too. So I was like, okay, right on. And I kind of knew too. I kind of felt like, man,
Right.
spinach might be a thing to it. And so,
Right. I need that. So okay, good. Thank you for that, for sharing that too. So any last words, any last tips or advice or
well, I think the last thing I would say is, hold on, I have this written down because I want to make sure, I always want to make sure I get the Lord's words. I say them correctly. So I wrote it down. I didn't actually write it down. I actually typed it. But 1 Corinthians 6:19-20, it says, do you not know that your bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought with a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. So I say, and I would encourage you to honor God with the food that you put on your plate, because all of us have a purpose. Especially those of us who are believers, we know that God has a complete plan for our lives, and we have things that we have to accomplish here on this earth to fulfill his will. And I say, let's feel good in our bodies while we are doing that.
all right. Yes, yes. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing your expertise, for your light. We appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank
And when you get that book done, you come right back here and we'll do another one.
you. Okay, it sounds like a deal. Yes, thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you, T. Take care.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.